Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel where we explore all things related to health in general. In today's video, we'll be talking about an important topic that affects our daily lives, the difference between processed foods and ultra-processed foods. We often hear these terms being used interchangeably, but in reality, they're quite different. So, let's dive in and learn more about what sets these two types of foods apart. You've probably heard health professionals claim that the secret to good health is to consume only whole foods and avoid processed ones. According to a study published in December 2022, for instance, persons who consume more than 20% of their daily calories from processed foods experience global cognition decrease that is 28% faster and executive functioning decline that is 25% faster than those who consume less than 20%. You're not the only one who doesn't understand what an ultra-processed food is. And that is because it's a tough topic. Being fully free of all processed foods might be challenging, if not impossible, given the majority of foods are at least partially processed, typically for preservation or safety reasons. It's also not necessary. According to a registered dietitian at Orlando Health, processed food tends to get a negative reputation, but there are many minimally processed foods that are actually excellent for us. Baby carrots, almonds, chicken, and fish are examples of foods that must be prepared in some way but only contain one ingredient. Ultra-processed foods, such as frozen meals, donuts, pastries, and candies, are at the other end of the spectrum from conventionally processed foods. They frequently have numerous substances, many of which you have never heard of and cannot pronounce. Nutritionists advise limiting these foods. Nutritionists admit that it might be challenging to distinguish between processed and ultra-processed meals. Here are some suggestions to assist you in sorting them. Almost all foods have some form of processing. According to nutritionists and dietetics, almost all food must be processed in order to be consumed. Processed foods' nutritional value is typically determined by additional components, such as salt or sugar, that are added during processing. Foods that have undergone modifications to their natural condition are referred to as processed foods by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. In consequence, it refers to any raw agricultural product that has been cooked, frozen, dehydrated, chopped, or canned. According to a registered dietitian at the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center, many things that people think of as whole meals actually are minimally processed, such frozen fruits or vegetables, or those bags of pre-cut veggies at the grocery store. According to the dietitian, processing methods like pasteurization, canning, or dehydration make food safer to store and ensure that it keeps for extended periods of time. And this may leave a little confusion. How to understand the different kinds of processed foods? There are variations among processed foods. The NOVA food classification system, created by experts at the University of São Paulo, Brazil, is one way to explain the various levels of processed foods. 4 categories make up the system. Category 1, foods that have undergone minimal or no processing. This describes foods like fruits, vegetables, seeds, eggs, fungus, and milk that are either eaten raw or modified to remove undesirable or inedible components like stems or shells. To maintain their natural state, conserve them, or improve their flavor, the foods may be dried, filtered, roasted, frozen, or packaged. Category 2, processed culinary ingredients. Oils, butter, lard, sugar, and salt are among the commodities that come from Category 1 of nature. Not often are they eaten on their own, they are typically employed to prepare dishes from Category 1. Category 3, processed foods. These foods are created by combining Category 2 elements like oil, sugar, and salt with Category 1 foods. Pickles, canned fish, cheese, canned fruits and vegetables, bacon, and fresh bread are a few examples. Often, the foods still have some of their original qualities and fundamental identities. Category 4. Ultra-processed foods. Industrial techniques are used to produce these products, such as hydrogenation and the addition of emulsifiers, artificial colors, artificial flavors, and preservatives. In addition to packaged bread, cookies, and cakes, they also feature pre-made meat, spaghetti, and pizza as well as soft drinks, sweets, and fast food. Ultra-processed meals typically come in a variety of flavors, are reasonably priced, and offer convenience. According to dietitians, one problem with the NOVA method is that it makes general definitions of food's healthiness based on substances added during processing, which might be perplexing to consumers. It could unintentionally reinforce the idea that some foods are excellent and others bad. Dietitians warned that this may be dangerous to people who struggle with balanced eating or eating disorders, and may lead to an excessively restrictive food intake. Should you limit ultra-processed foods? It's challenging for most individuals to avoid ultra-processed foods because, in contrast to some whole foods, many of them are easy and affordable. Also, there is nothing wrong with occasionally eating sweets or soft drinks. However, the likelihood that a food would contain more calories, salt, or sugar increases with its level of processing. High consumption of ultra-processed meals has been associated in studies to obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, and dementia. Also, the 2022 study that was previously stated has connected ultra-processed diets to cognitive impairment. Certain ultra-processed meals may not be dangerous if you consume processed foods, but you need to be mindful of your overall calorie intake. Many dietitians advised following the 80-20 rule. What is this rule, you may ask? This rule focuses on consuming whole or minimally processed foods 80% of the time, and the 20% of processed and ultra-processed foods. And if you're asking, which processed foods are the healthiest to eat? The simplest way to think about it is that the fewer components, the better. Try not to eat it frequently if you start reading an ingredient list and you can't understand or even pronounce what's in it. I know that selecting nutritious foods can be challenging, especially when labels claim they are all natural or made with whole grains but actually contain a variety of ultra-processed chemicals. To ensure that you choose the least processed options the majority of the time. Therefore, search for products with no more than 5 components, or the ones with the shortest ingredient list. The first ingredient indicated is the one that makes up the majority of the product. For example, look for bread that says whole grain first rather than enriched flour. Products with added sugar, saturated fat, or high levels of sodium, 20% or more of your recommended intake of sodium per serving is considered high, should be avoided, or used in moderation. Foods that are as close to their natural state as feasible should be chosen. Remember, many dietitians advised people to consider how frequently and in what amounts they consume highly processed meals. And you should always consider any degree of meal preparation, and planning ahead for meals and snacks can help decrease how frequently these convenience items are required. Thank you for watching our video on the difference between processed foods and ultra-processed foods. We hope that you found this information helpful in understanding how these foods can impact your health. Remember, it's important to read food labels and choose whole. It is highly recommended to use the 80-20 rule for a balanced and healthy diet. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more informative content on health.